Welcome to a place where faith comes alive, where women are strengthened, encouraged, and reminded of who they are in Christ. This is a space for real conversations, real growth, and real hope. If you're rebuilding, believing again, or just needing a reminder that God is not finished with you, you are in the right place. Here, we rise with grace, we walk in truth, and we step boldly into the next chapter God has written for us. Welcome to the Cherie Rickard Show. Here is your host, author, speaker, and faith-driven transformation coach, Cherie Rickard.
Hey friends, and welcome back to the Cherie Rickard Show. I am so grateful that you're here today. I want to talk to you about something that can completely transform your relationships, your peace, your influence, and even your future. The title of today's episode is Stop Feeding the Fire, because we live in a world where bad news spreads fast. One text message, one social post, a conversation just over coffee, maybe it's a rumor or an opinion, and suddenly someone's reputation is being discussed, dissected, and then judged. And if we're honest, every one of us has opportunity to just make people look bad. We hear things, we see things, sometimes we know things. Sometimes what we hear isn't even true. Sometimes it is. But if I've learned one thing, and it's the greatest sign of spiritual maturity, is not what we know. It's what we choose to do with what we know. Today, I want to challenge us to become people who carry water instead of gasoline, people who heal instead of harm others, people who restore instead of expose, because every conversation gives us a choice. We can fuel the fire or we can put it out. I once heard someone say that everyone carries two buckets, a bucket of gasoline and a bucket of water. And when you hear gossip, when someone tells you that juicy information, when someone starts criticizing another person, you get to decide which bucket you're going to use. You can pour gasoline on the situation, you can repeat it, add details, spread it, get involved, just make the fire even bigger, or you can pour water on it. You can refuse to participate, change the conversation, and protect someone's reputation. You can be the one to let it die with you. Because here's the truth. Not everything you know needs to be shared, ladies. Not everything that's true needs to be repeated. Not every single story needs another audience. Sometimes wisdom sounds like silence. Because most gossip doesn't start with evil intentions. Most people don't wake up and think, today I'm going to tear somebody else down. Usually, it just starts with curiosity. Did you hear what happened? I probably shouldn't tell you this, but don't repeat this, but. And before you know it, a story has gone through 10 different people, and it no longer even resembles the truth that it started with. Because every time information changes hands, it also changes shape. Details get added, emotions get attached, assumptions get mixed in. What's small, or what started small, becomes large. That molehill that becomes a mountain? What's bad becomes worse. And often, the people being discussed isn't even present to defend themselves. That's not good. The Bible tells us that if we want to enjoy our life and see good days, we should keep our tongue from speaking evil. That's a challenge in today's culture. We live in a society fueled by opinions, by criticism, something to get outraged about, and to gossip. People love drama. Just like misery loves company, drama loves company. People love controversy. People love knowing something others don't know. But just because the world sees it doesn't mean we're called to participate in it. Now, somebody might be thinking right now, well, Cherie, it's actually true. What if they really did make that mistake? What if they really did fall? What if they failed? What if they really did mess up? That's a fair question. I get it. But here's what I've learned. Just because something is true, ladies, doesn't automatically make it necessary to repeat. Before I share something negative about someone, I try to ask myself just two questions. Number one, do I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that everything about it is entirely true? Because not everything you read is true, ladies. Just because it's on Facebook or somebody wrote an article about it doesn't mean that it's entirely true. If you think it does, that's for another episode. Now, what somebody told me, right, and what social media says, not what I heard from a friend, but do I actually know that it's true? And number two, does this need to even be said? Does it need to be repeated? Not do I want to say it, not would it make for an interesting conversation, does it truly need to be said? Does it truly need to be repeated? Most of the time, the answer is no. And that's where wisdom steps in. One of the greatest gifts that you can give someone is protecting their reputation when they're not in the room. They're not in the conversation. Anybody can defend a friend when they're standing right there, right? Character shows up when they're absent. What do you say when they're not around? Do you join in the criticism? Do you add another negative comment on the ones that are being spoken? Or do you choose honor of that person? I've learned that when you protect another's reputation, you're planting seeds for God to protect your own reputation. Because if truth be told, none of us are perfect. Every one of us will have moments where we need grace from someone else, moments where we need understanding, moments when we are the ones that need mercy. And the seeds that you plant today often become the harvest we experience tomorrow. So can I be honest right now? Not everyone deserves access to your ears, ladies. Some people are professional complainers. Every conversation can be negative by them. Every lunch break is a gossip session for those people. Every gathering turns into criticism. And if you're constantly around negativity, eventually negativity gets inside of you. The Bible warns us not to spend our lives around angry people because we'll become like them. The same principle applies to gossip. Spend enough time around fault finders and you'll become just like them. Spend enough time around complainers and you will become one of them. Spend enough time around people who tear others down and eventually it becomes normal to you. Protect your peace, protect your spirit, and above all, protect your heart. That's what the Bible tells us to do. Your future is too important to be poisoned by someone else's bitterness. It's easy to judge people when they fall, right? It's easy to say, whoop, I told you so. It's easy to point out their mistakes. It's easy to criticize them from a distance. But honorable people do something very different. They restore. Be one of those people. When someone is already hurting, they don't need another person pushing them down, right? They need someone willing to help them back up, especially when it comes to family. Families aren't perfect. We all have relatives who have made mistakes. We've all had disagreements. We've all experienced hurt, but family was never meant to be in a courtroom. Family was meant to be in a place of restoration, a place where grace lives, a place where forgiveness is possible, a place where people know somebody still believes in them. Proverbs says a friend loves at all times and a brother is born for adversity. That means when life gets hard, when the storm comes, when mistakes happen, that's when family matters most. Not when everything is going great, not when everyone is succeeding, but in adversity. That's when we're called to stand together. Life is too short to stay offended. Life's short to hold grudges. It's too short to allow pride to separate us from people that we love. One day we'll wish we had one more conversation with that person, one more family dinner, one more opportunity to say, I love you. Choose restoration, choose unity, and choose grace. One of the most powerful examples of this comes from a story of Noah. After surviving the flood and spending months on the ark, Noah made one poor decision. He became drunk and he found himself lying uncovered in his tent. One of his sons saw him and immediately ran to tell everybody else, right? You know the story. So instead of protecting his father, he exposed him. Instead of covering him, he publicized his failure. Instead of showing honor to his dad, he magnified that mistake. But Noah's other two sons, they did the opposite. When they heard what happened, they took a blanket, they walked backward into the tent because their father was laying there naked, and they refused to even look at their father in that shame. Then they covered him with the blanket. Think about that. They weren't pretending he was perfect. They weren't excusing his behavior. They simply chose mercy over exposure. They chose honor over criticism, and they chose restoration over humiliation. That's mature love. That's what God calls us to do. The Apostle Paul wrote that when someone fails, those who are spiritual should gently restore them. Notice that he didn't say expose them. He didn't say embarrass them. He didn't say make sure everyone else knows what they did. He said gently restore them. That's God's heart. God is always in the restoration business. When He chooses mercy and when we choose mercy, we reflect His character. Here's something I want you to remember. The mercy that you extend today may actually become the mercy you or your family receives tomorrow. Every time you choose compassion over criticism, you're planting seeds. Every time you choose to protect someone instead of exposing their failures, you're planting seeds. Every time you choose grace instead of judgment of someone, you're planting seeds. And one day, when you or someone you love needs mercy, God has a way of bringing that harvest back into your life. That's why I've made a decision. I'm not going to be known as a fault finder. I'm going to be known as a restorer. I'm not going to be known for exposing other people's failures. I'm going to be known for encouraging people. I'm not going to carry the gasoline. I'm carrying the water. Friend, here's a challenge for you this week. The next time someone starts gossiping, the next time you hear that juicy information, you know what I heard, you know what I read, you know what I know. The next time that you're tempted to repeat something negative, I want you to pause. Just pause for a second and ask yourself, am I carrying gasoline or am I carrying the water? Am I helping heal or am I going to help hurt that person? Am I protecting someone's reputation or do I choose to damage it further? Because every conversation is an opportunity to reflect God's heart, an opportunity to extend mercy, an opportunity to build someone up instead of tearing them down further. The world has enough critics. The world has enough accusers. The world has enough people pouring gasoline on others, especially on social media. Let's become people who carry water, people who protect, people who restore and show mercy, and trust that the same mercy we give away will one day come back to us. One of my favorite verses in the Bible says, "Let those without sin cast the first stone." Today, you'll have to drop that stone. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If this episode has encouraged you, share it with a friend. Leave a review and connect with me on social media at The Cherie Rickard Show, and also go back to queenbeetransformation.com. And remember, your words have power. Use them to heal others. Use them to encourage. Use them to restore. And until next time, I want you to keep walking by faith, choosing grace, and keep becoming the woman God created you to be. I'll see you on the next episode. God bless.
You've been listening to The Cherie Rickard Show. If you're ready to stop surviving and start rebuilding with structure, if you know it's time to go deeper, visit queenbeetransformation.com. There you'll find reflection tools, free resources, and the opportunity to book a complimentary consultation, a space to talk through where you are and where you're ready to grow. This isn't surface inspiration. This is intentional transformation. Until next time, real faith, real work, real transformation. God bless.